Good morning. Happy Sunday. Happy Monday morning. Happy whatever, wherever, however you are, somewhere on this planet. It's me, Teri Hunter. It's Sunday here in the Pacific time zone, April 30th. Good morning, Scarred Owl. It's good to see you in the chat. What a fun time we're having. So much going on. Good morning, Katerina. How are you? We're going to send good love for your computer to work properly. Oh, good. Okay, so just want to start off with a little bit of business for those that may be new to the channel, new to the live, or when you're looking at the replay. Good morning, Dr. Linda. It's wonderful to see you. Good morning, Stephen. These Sunday videos are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I talk about a sign, I'm talking about your rising sign. It'd be Taurus Rising, but it's also applicable to Taurus Moon and Taurus Sun. If you have 3 or more personal planets in any one sign or house, this is a strong indication of a soul's focus in this lifetime. So that sign and that reading will be applicable to you as well. The reason I put the moon before the sun is because the older I get, and by this point I'm very, very seasoned on the planet, I really believe that we base our manifestations on our emotional body. And I mentioned last week that I had been challenged with videos in April, feeling really like, pushing a rock uphill, a lot of life things just interrupting things. And this last week I was able to settle in and really be aware of my energy and my vibration when I started my videos. And I just felt so much better about it. So this is why I think the moon is really important, especially in these transformational times. Good morning, small wildflowers. It's wonderful to see you in the room. So these videos, whole sign Western astrology. And when I talk about a day or a time, I'm talking in the Pacific time zone. So please adjust for your location. Stephen, my technically in Placidus, my moon is in the first house, and my first house is actually dominated by the Taurus energy. I'm a 26-degree Aries Rising, and most of my Aries Rising is in the 12th house, and I find that fascinating and very true and very applicable. And also, I wanted to mention that for those of you that are new to my show as well, I'm going to talk about the degrees a lot. I'm very fascinated by the idea that each sign has 30 degrees, giving us an opportunity to revisit the various aspects that the Zodiac has to offer and to fine tune and hone them and to become really adept and flexible in how we operate and how we move through this planet. Good morning, Geeta. It's wonderful to see you here today. So it's a big week. First of all, tomorrow, Pluto goes retrograde. Pluto's been at the 0 degree of Aquarius since the end of March. And I personally have not really felt the Pluto entry into Aquarius as much as I have Saturn's entry into Pisces. And we're seeing, and I just brought that up because transit Saturn is opposing my natal Pluto. But I want to offer it this way, because this retrograde for me it's an interesting energy to have the planet stay at the 0 degree the whole time. So how do we differentiate between the planet moving forward at the 0 degree and the planet moving backwards, ultimately in June, moving back into Capricorn? It's an opportunity for me to actually play to the higher octaves of Uranus, to start to look to my future rather than my present, to give me an opportunity to see possibilities versus practicality, and to start to apply a more scientific viewpoint of how I address my life. I've talked many times on the channel about how I love the History Channel and I watch Ancient Aliens, and there's always like marathons of Ancient Aliens going on Saturday nights. And I am fascinated by how often they talk about astrology and how often they talk about it from a very scientific point of view. And I think that this is a real opportunity for us as Pluto goes retrograde to give ourselves this sort of opportunity to think to our future, to think about possibilities. This retrograde is going to be 127 days. It will go, Pluto will move back into Capricorn June 11th. And this to me is that the last review of the structures that I left behind. I almost feel as if I'm looking at a property, a home, and maybe I've renovated 3/4 of it, and yet I still have to go into the bathroom and I have to do some work in the bathroom. And I use the bathroom because Pluto represents plumbing and what is behind the walls, what's deeper than what I can see with my eyes. So I think it's really, really powerful. Also, we have a lunar eclipse this coming Saturday, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. This is a very powerful lunar eclipse as it's in Scorpio. It is at the 14th degree. It will be exact, or the exact eclipse is at 10:34 a.m. Pacific time. This is interesting to me because we've had a series of eclipses in the Taurus and Scorpio axis back in 2022, and now we're revisiting that, and we have flipped the moon cycles. I don't know if you guys got to see the monthly I did for May, but Molly McCord had talked about how having 2 new moons in Aries has flipped the cycle of the moon. So now the full moon precedes the new moon. And this will happen for a period of time. I think it's like 4 to 6 months. I'd have to go back and check what she said. But the reason I say that is because here we're seeing this lunar eclipse in Scorpio at the Venusian Taurian degree. 14 degrees is the Taurus degree. How am I perceiving my life, my skills, my progress? This morning in my meditation, I really was I tend to always look at what's the next hill to climb, what's the next venture. And I realize I exhaust myself sometimes because I never actually sit in my accomplishments. I don't sit in just basking in, I got that done, I got the sink fixed, I got the plumbing fixed, da 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 da. And I really wanted to make a commitment to myself at this lunar eclipse to pay more attention to the progress I've made, the awarenesses I've incorporated, the things I've built around me that at one point were just dreams in my life. And now I kind of get to revisit them and take a deeper look into how I am reveling in them, how I am celebrating them. I want to offer all of this to you too. I did videos on for May for each sign, and I covered the moon cycles within that video. After a result of what I did in April, I want to make sure you all had that. But I want to offer it this way because I think that there is a very positive aspect between Venus and Jupiter during the eclipse. And so I really feel like there's also a square between Venus and Neptune, but I feel as if that sextile between Jupiter and Venus is really starting to incorporate my faith in myself, in my own individuality, in my own individual expression, in my own opportunity to expand my life, to go into territories that I have only dreamt about and hoped for. Venus is also making a square to Neptune on that day, Neptune being in Pisces. And I think this may be just a little bit of self-doubt, just a little bit of confusion if the capabilities are really there. But I think as we persevere through that, the sun being conjunct Uranus at the same time of the eclipse is going to give us that, again, that lightning sort of epiphany, sort of that lightning bolt that says, you know what? If I don't bet on me, who will bet on me? And why not try? I've already been around whatever mulberry bush I've already been around. So that may be a little Saturn, Stephen, depending on where, where Pisces is for you. It's your birthday month. All right. So I think those are the big things coming up. I also want to mention that May overall is a huge month. We're going to start feeling Jupiter's ending its sojourn, its journey through through Aries, and then it's going to enter Taurus. And I really feel like this is going to expand upon the idea that I want to use my voice, my skills, my talents for my own abundance and benefit. So the eclipses being on the Scorpio Taurus axis in the fall of 2022, and then again revisiting them now is now as Jupiter moves into Taurus, it's an opportunity to ground these things, to build them in on the earth, within the 3D structure, so they're tangible and you can see them. So that's where I'm going. Now, let me wish a happy birthday to all my Tauruses as we start this morning's readings with your sign. Again, this is Taurus Rising. Then we go Taurus Moon, Taurus Sun. And if you have a stellium, this is really powerful. And if you have a stellium in Taurus, I don't care, whatever planets you have in Taurus, as Jupiter's about, in 2 weeks going to enter that sign, this is really a time to put that faith, double down on yourself, allow for that expansion, because I think it's a year of really growing. And I think it represents for the masses. Okay, let's see what your tarot card is for this week. The Tower. Now, the tower is a very, oftentimes when people see the tower, they get immediately afraid of the tower. They think, oh no, something bad is going to happen. And I want you to start to pay attention to that as a default thought, that the human is trained from the moment they come into this earthly experience, that we're trained to prepare for something terrible to happen. It's why we have insurances on our car and on our bodies and on our homes and on our other enjoyment, playtime things. But I want to offer this because we just got done talking about how the sun will be conjunct Uranus. The sun will be at 14 degrees on the day of the eclipse, which is next Saturday here in the Pacific. And Uranus will be at 18 degrees, which is the degree of Virgo. So there's a very good possibility that there's an awareness that releases you from any chains that have bound you to a certain type of thought, behavior, belief. And now I feel as if while these characters seem to be toppled, I feel like this is an opportunity to give them wings to fly. So let's see, because what we never consider here when we look at the tower is the human naturally relates to being thrown out of their tower. There could be the possibility that this is what has been repressing you, being thrown out of your tower. Sort of, it could be the opposite of what we think. Because we get into these grooves sometimes in the way that we perceive things, and we just kind of default to them. And as I'm experiencing a lot of Pluto transits right now, I feel like it's my job to continue to probe and excavate and to dig deeper into my motivations, to the imprints, and not to judge them, but to just recognize them. Because this epiphany could be something quite simple and very easy to implement. We have Omega, the angel of victory. We have Mystique, another unicorn, 2 unicorns in a row. We have Teresa in the Angel's Advice, and then we have Isaiah. Again, I'm on Taurus. This is Taurus Rising, Taurus Moon, Taurus Sun, and Taurus Stelliums. Oh, man. Enunciate, young lady. All right, here we go. Let's see where the victory's coming from. Let me quickly change my notepad because I have where the... For my Tauruses, that eclipse is going to be in your 7th house, which I should have known off the top of my head, but I only can think in 4 places at one time. Okay, Omega is being joined by the restriction card. Mystique is being joined by the fear card. Teresa is being joined by the king. And Isaiah is being joined by the queen. All right, so this is where I'm going. I want to offer it this way because the 7th house, while it represents marriage and partnership, it also represents professional partnerships. It represents diplomacy. It represents civil servants like policemen and people who work in governmental structures. It represents an opportunity to work in cooperation. So I want to offer this because the tower definitely feels as if it's an epiphany to me. It feels as if, especially those of you that are middle-born Tauruses. Again, if you have any planets, I happen to have my Mercury at 13 degrees Scorpio. So this eclipse is going to affect my Mercury, and then it's going to oppose, in some respects, my moon. I also had the solar eclipse a few degrees away from my ascendant, because I feel as if this restriction card is really about reassessing the victories that you have already achieved. I started this, and I'm a Taurus moon, okay? And I can be very, I can always somehow seek what needs to be done next versus really basking in the enjoyment of my accomplishments or of my evolvement, when I've conquered my instinctual behaviors. Because I think that as you take more of an inventory, this Tower card brings about an epiphany that then has fear transformed, as Mystique tells you to keep charging ahead, to expect miraculous solutions. Because I think that this fear card is really about more than just your own personal fears, but how the human experience right now is pummeled with fear-based information, fear-based media, fear-based branding and advertising. There's always, when we used to when we watch TV, and there before reality, there was all these dramedies and dramas, and they would have the end of a season with a cliffhanger. What it was something that we would, something bad happened, and that would keep us tuned in until next week or the next season. Because now I think that there is a certain amount of conquering of your fears, to see the wisdom of how fear sometimes is the very thing that allows for our exhilaration. And I want to offer this too, because Teresa represents worry for me, and the king is not necessarily representing a man, but rather justice, things that are fair, things that seem in alignment with what my goals and my intentions are. Because when I look at this, I feel that there is also the possibility that Taurus is starting to realize that if there is a pause in movement, it gives you an opportunity to really look at your vibrational frequency. Because Isaiah is talking about giving life to new ideas and that you're protected. And then the Queen is really here to remind you here, Taurus, that assertion, this is not a planet of assertion. It's a planet of attraction, a planet where our thoughts are focused on something. We attract that experience in varying hues, varying levels of experience, from very light to very heavy. So when we focus on the idea that everything's working out for me, when we get up into a challenge, we look to see how the challenge is working out for us versus defaulting to the challenge being something that is trying to trip us up. And that's something that I very much have been employing myself. So yes, exactly, Small. And I want to offer this too. I told you guys a few weeks ago, Lucky got out of the house, the fire alarm, he freaked out and he ran out, and he had no protective gear. The highway is just like a blink away. And while I initially freaked out and I was like, oh my God, this could have happened, and that bad thing and that bad thing, I pulled myself back and I was like, it didn't happen. And I was able to anchor myself into what did happen, which was protecting us, working for us. Everything was fine. And that helped me to have an epiphany about how I'm being massaged and manipulated into worry energy all the time. I want to make Taurus aware of that, so you don't get triggered too much. It's easy to do that, to be like, oh, what's the point? Look, watch the news. It'll tell you there's no point. So I think this is important. And when we think about the idea of a lunar eclipse bringing about a culmination, when we think about the idea that the moon cycles have flipped, so how they affect us emotionally will flip, how they affect the tides will flip a little bit. We'll see this big illumination, the tides will get bigger before that new moon, and they get quieter and smaller, and it gets darker. So now when you're with this illumination, you have an opportunity to plant seeds with more faith, with more information, with more awareness and intention. And in the normal cycle, it's more of this a hope energy versus a faith energy. So I think this is really powerful. And I also want to note that this is a fertile energy, meaning that the things that you plant with your mind will begin to show life, show viability as you focus on the viability of it. And again, this could change your whole experience on the planet. Okay. And it's your solar return. So you may have even set some certain goals for yourself or things you want to experience over the next year. And as Jupiter moves into your first house, yay! Yay. I will say this, as Jupiter's been hovering over my ascendant, I've become a really, I'm eating like crazy. I'm eating lots of pizza, which I never ate before, ever, ever, ever. And I'm having a lot of dessert. Dear God, the dessert. Okay, here we go, Gemini. All right, Gemini, here's the Five of Pentacles. This is an interesting energy because, oh, hi, Jay Sean. Good, welcome to the room. Hi, Cece Pups. Anybody else I missed? Hi, Jules, good to see you. Okay, I want to offer this because this card's a little rough when we first look at it. It appears that these people are downtrodden, that they're going through some very heavy challenges. They've got no shoes or barely any shoes. They're wounded and they're walking through the snow and they can't begin to see that there is shelter, that there's it almost appears to be a church here. The fives also represent a freedom energy, a sort of a release. And I want to offer this because this again is an eclipse, and the eclipse, during the day of the eclipse, Venus is making some very powerful aspects. One, she's making a sextile to Jupiter in Aries. Aries is all about the self. It's all about a sense of independence. Then we have Venus making a square to Neptune. Now, you guys know that when I talk about a square, I feel like it's a tense conversation between an old pattern part of myself and a new part of myself that I haven't rooted into instinctual behavior yet. I have to put some focus and some thought and some awareness into it. So I feel like this could be exactly this, because when I saw this, I thought Gemini was worrying. I thought Gemini was running the scenarios of, oh no, this could happen, that could happen. And the eclipse bringing a culmination, bringing illumination, it may be something to the effect of, I know some of my clients are experiencing layoffs at work, or things are changing at work, and you may be worrying about that dynamic. Saturn has gone into your 10th house. And at the same time, you can turn around and look at what your history is and where you want to feel a sense of freedom. Let's look and see what's, oh, I just dropped a bunch of cards on the floor. Let me get them. Hold on. Boy, I'll tell you, me and myself lately. Hold on. Drop my glasses. All right. Let's see if I can get myself together here. Gemini, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Let's see where. You know, I just saw something in this card that made me feel want to say something else. In this card, the guy in the blue tunic is seeing the church, the pentacles, and yet the woman, her head is so far down and she's in front of him. And I almost feel as if there is a solution that's being presented, but for some reason, Gemini won't acknowledge it or look at it, or you're not ready for it, or you're overwhelmed by stress and a challenge, and it's keeping your head down in some way. Let's look and see, because this eclipse could pop all that energy in a good way, meaning it ends something challenging and brings in new opportunities. And as I talk about this, feels, I've been talking a lot about Gemini lately, and this eclipse is in your 6th house of health and work. And if you've been super stressed and work has been stressing you out, this may be an opportunity to reframe everything. Sometimes it's not about just taking physical action to remove yourself from a stressful situation, as much as being able to reframe it in your mind, which then kind of lets a little bit of the air out and creates a surrendering energy that opens up an opportunity that you could not have conceived. All right, Gemini, our first angel is Sonia. The second is Daniel, the angel of marriage. The third is Archangel Uriel. And the final is Archangel Gabriel. Yeah, I think so. You're right, to shuffle them a little more. Plus my hands feel super, like almost soft. It's kind of hard they're not coming out as quickly. Okay. Sonia and the Goblin are joining each other. Daniel and the High Priestess are joining you. Archangel Uriel and the Cow is here. And we have Archangel Gabriel, and the burden card. Okay, this is what I want to offer for my Geminis. Right now, Venus is going through Gemini. She will be until, I think, the 7th when she moves into Cancer. So this could very much make you in your first house aware of how your resources for money, what you feel about your own sense of comfort, your sense of safety, your sense of perception. And I want to offer it this way because I think that this is very much telling me that Gemini is too much. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this lovingly, in your human mind and in your edging spirit out. We see the characters here ignoring the church, ignoring, source energy. We have the goblin where the wounded ego, I always call that edging God out. And then we have Sonia, which is your team of heavenly hosts, I want to say, the people watching over you. And I feel as if maybe because of this mercurial dynamic where Mercury is retrograde, and Mercury is in Taurus retrograde, and this would be in your 12th house. So you may be feeling like there's things that are like kind of like on the behind you. You might even be having a weird intuition, but your mind is messing with your intuition because it's looking for some sort of evidence. Because here is Daniel, the angel of marriage. Now I'm going to go straight to your work sector because of the idea that the eclipse is in your 6th house, because the Saturn has moved into Pisces in your 10th house, and Daniel represents history and partnerships. And while I don't think this is an intimate marriage, I think it's a professional marriage. And now we have the High Priestess. And I feel like this is a call to shifting your mind from one place to another, to starting to open up to the ideas of integration between the human experience and your intuitive inner knowing. Because if you've been calling forth a new experience and you've been saying, you know what, I'm just kind of tired of not being appreciated or not making enough money, because clearly there's been frustration attached to Gemini. And I really think this is in the work sector. It may be in the health sector, but the way this is playing out for me, and knowing Saturn's in your 10th house, knowing that there could potentially be some sort of divine hand on this that is creating a disruption so that it moves you into a place that's much more aligned with what you want. Because the cow is about abundance. It's about nourishment. It's about asking and receiving. Because if you're stressed out, Jules, about work, it'll affect your health. And people don't really think that worry is actually stress, but it is, because it's a lack of faith. Because here, Archangel Gabriel, which rules Gemini, is talking about insecure thoughts here. And there's the burden. And this clearly represents a burden. So I want to offer it this way. If indeed, this lunar eclipse is going to bring an illumination of some kind. And if part of what's going on with Gemini is you have a fear of losing a sense of security in some way, you have a sense of feeling like it's better to have this, out of balance situation than no situation at all, I think there's an opportunity to reframe it. And I feel as if there's a very strong opportunity to start to go into the energy of, in a perfect world, if this was how things were rolling for me, this is how it would feel. I feel a lot like this is sort of an argument between your emotional body and your mental body. And your mental body is telling you this is practical, this is realistic. And yet at the same time, if all you see is this, then that practicality becomes a golden noose that's actually strangling you. Jules, that could absolutely be the culmination of something, that where you've had a chronic issue, because I want to offer this too. During this time of heightened fear and heightened confusion between what our intuition, what our inner voice, what our loving voice is telling us, and then sometimes what our fear-based mind is telling us, is that we are powerless. And that is supported by the environment right now. No matter your country, no matter your socioeconomic dynamic, no matter your gender, no matter anything. And so as we are aware of that, we get to start to play to, what if this is working out for me? And our awareness of that will bring solutions that will then represent for others. And people who have experienced chronic issues and triumph over them are the real light workers right now, because they've walked a challenging path, and their tenacity to continue to move forward towards balance and alignment is going to represent what people are calling the Aquarian age. And I don't think the Aquarian age is a period of time. I think it's a focus and a way of thinking and being. And I have chills all over my body as I said that. So if for some reason Geminis experience a challenging week, if for some reason you're feeling like, this is more disruptive than it is feeling good, I want you to start to kind of move yourself into a place that maybe there's a divine disruption that's leading to something better. I've told you guys a couple of times that when I started working for myself, I didn't have a plan. I really never have a plan. I'm always shooting by the seat of my pants. And it was a disruption through an old work situation that made me quit my job because I was just over it. I was tired of this little girl constantly up my grill and criticizing me. And as a result of my frustration and my surrender, I actually found more bounty and more alignment. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. Venus is about to move into your sign. That's going to feel pretty warm and fuzzy. And I want to say this for you guys. I don't know if y'all are feeling it, but I had this week, every time I meditated and I saw Venus go into Cancer, I felt like I wanted foods of my childhood, like just the warm, the thing, cream of wheat and English muffins with peanut butter on it, and just the foods of my childhood. Okay. Stephen, there's a real breaking of the herd. So that could feel like a disruption at first, but it could be something wonderful. All right. Okay, for my Cancers. So far, the tarot cards have been a little challenging. Not gonna lie. This is the 10 of Wands. Now, all 10s offer a new beginning, and they offer an awareness because it's an awareness of thought. Now, this particular character, while he's got all those wands and he's moving them, he's not doing it in an easy way. He actually looks like he's doing it the hard way. So let's see what this might reflect. It could be something on the outside. It could be something on the inside. Because if indeed you're running up against resistance this week, it could be a surrendering to it. Let's see. While I'm shuffling, I told you guys I was having all these plumbing issues, right? And like the sink, no hot water, no pressure. It wasn't backing up. It was like drip, drip, drip. And with this head of hair I have, the shower, I need water. So I had this plumber coming, and man, this kid just kept forgetting about me like I was, yesterday's news. And part of me, my Aries and my Taurus, wanted to get really, aggressive with him. Like, come on, dude, like, what's your problem? And I had this awareness. This is all for Cancer. I'm saying this for a reason. That would have been the hard way to do it. It would have been rubbing up against him in a way that never would have worked out favorably for me. And I know this because when he came, I had surrendered to the whole nonsense we had experienced for the last 6 weeks. And I just acted like I never knew him before. And I was very friendly and cool. I ended up telling him I do astrology. He shows me his chart, and I see Venus and the moon in Leo. And I am so happy that I didn't get up his grill, because his fixed moon would have just iced me out. And his Venus would have been so insulted by me if I would have pushed on him. So it was fabulous that I had that awareness. Cancer, I'm just saying this lovingly. I really want you to kind of look if you're doing things a little bit the hard way, or if maybe there's a way to do things a little bit easier. And it may be a little uncomfortable at first. Pluto and plumbers. I know. And I have Saturn opposing, transit Saturn in Pisces is opposing my natal Pluto in Virgo. And it blows my mind sometimes on a mundane level to see these things happen, because it literally, the minute it started in March, and my whole April was messed up. So funny with doing my videos, I mean. Okay. Cancer. Our first angel is Celeste. The second is Omega. The third is Ray. And the final is Azure. And I want to offer this too, because when that guy left, I didn't have any residual annoyance with him. All I focused on was the triumph of me not acting my Aries rising and my Taurus moon. I was really proud that my Libra showed up and she was able to create balance and cooperation and therefore creating harmony. And as he walked out the door, he's like, I'm going to come back to you for astrology. And I looked at him and I said, that's why they pay me the big bucks. Because I had to pay him the big bucks for his plumbing. All right, here we go. Cancer, Celeste is being joined by the fire fairy. Omega is being joined by the transformational swan. Ray is being joined by the frog, and Azure is being joined by the Grail Knight. This is fabulous, okay? Whether you realize it or not, okay, the eclipse is happening in your fifth house of romance too. I've got my cheat sheet out here, and I'm very excited about this because if you've been sitting in that little Cancer energy of worry and insecurity and feeling like you're not getting anywhere, you could be getting further along than you think you are. So I really want to reframe how you are viewing things right now. Venus has been going through your first house. She's about to leave your first house, and she may inadvertently have triggered how you feel about yourself in partnership, how you view your value, how you view your voice. Am I heard when I speak? Because Celeste for me represents a shift in the way I'm thinking. Oftentimes, you know, you can put my body anywhere on the planet. I have a certain belief system. I have a certain way of thinking, and it doesn't shift just because you move my body. So I think while Celeste talks about a new home or a new place of employment, I think this is literally shifting the way you're thinking from this difficult, hard, this isn't happening. Oh my gosh, why isn't it happening? There's no evidence of it happening. And if anything, Cancer, you're being called upon to trust that inner knowing, to trust the moon inside of you, because this moon is this illumination is offering you an opportunity not just to see some things are happening, this creative action and optimism, but also your participation in that, to celebrate in some ways that if it has felt like a long journey, the payoff could be truly amazing. This is what I want to say. We talk about Saturn rewarding over time, but if you think about it, at least for me personally, I'm like, when am I old enough for Saturn to actually reward me? Because if I look at it, it's always out there in the future. And I want to start to bring it into the present. Okay. I want to start to offer that all that you've experienced as Pluto was opposing you, okay, in your seventh house. It was giving you information about how you operate with others in partnership, because now it's time to celebrate your transformation rather than looking at how far the road has to go. Because you know what? I think this guy doesn't really know how far he's got to go to get those wands where they need to go, because he's just plowing ahead without really looking. So now Spirit is showing that as you incorporate, as you connect more and more to your inner being, to all that is within you, you start to feel that integration. You start to feel this feeling of, you know what? Things are working out for me, because Azure is telling Cancer your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And now the Grail Knight is literally about seeking the sacred within yourself. What is most important to you? And I want to offer it this way, because if you're fretting about something and that something is really just a fragment of what you want to experience, you know, like let's be kind of, let's give a very superficial example. Let's say you're a Cancer and you're still single and you've dated, you know, you've gone a couple of, you know, first dates or first and second dates, and it just feels like, oh dear God, it's the same nonsense over and over again. As you shift into, you know what, there's one off, another one off, I'm closer, I'm one step closer, I'm one step closer, you're going to start to feel the victory and you'll start to draw it in. And this is where I'm going to go into the last card spread, because I feel like this is very much about feeling valued, about feeling like people, you know, cherish my energy, whether it, you know, be an intimate situation or a partnership in a professional situation or within your home environment. This eclipse is happening in your fifth house of creativity. okay, of self-expression, of fun and entertainment. And I want to offer it this way because Cancer, if you've gone through a little bit of a rocky journey, it's kind of bless the broken road. Okay. I know nobody wants to look back on all the heartbreaks and say, oh, yay, that's bringing me closer to you. But really, sometimes it does. It brings us closer because we have an appreciation. And there's one thing I want to feel is Cancer wants to feel mutual appreciation, mutual love. Right. I think that is a real small, that once this happens, I'll do this, is a showstopper, and not in a good way. It literally stops the show. So this is partially why I feel like the moon's changing into the illumination cycle of the full moon before the planting of the new seeds is about taking the wisdom, taking the transformation, taking all we've garnished. And then rather than being like, I've worked so hard, nothing's happening, it's more like, I've worked so hard, everything is happening, and I'm excited to receive it. I'm excited to receive it because it is coming. And we want it at its highest vibration, not a reasonable facsimile thereof. So when we talk about partnership, we don't just want to get married. We want to enjoy marriage. We want to have a partnership that's in sync. Two people that think alike, that appreciate each other. Welcome, Prudence. I love that name. I do too. The minute I said it, it went right through my head. Dear Prudence. Okay. And of course, I love the Beatles always. All right, here we go for our Leos. The Page of Pentacles. This is fun. This is the beginning of the material showing up. Okay, let's see what's happening here for our Leos. What is this material that's showing up? It's this infusion of new energy in an earthy way. Leo, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. We have Indriel, the light worker. We have Seraphina. We have Athena. And we have Mystique. We have the Joy card popping out. We have Seraphina being joined by the High Priestess. We have Athena being joined by the Love card. Ooh, fun, fun. And then we have Mystique being joined by the Focus card. Okay, this is what I want to offer for my Leos. Early born Leos have been feeling the opposition to Pluto, right? That immediate, like, oh my God. And this is the thing. Everybody freaks out over some of these, just the name Pluto, something bad is going to happen. I want to remind everybody that when Pluto squared Gwen Stefani's son and she ended up getting divorced, she then met the love of her life and has been happy like a glowworm for the last 8 or 9 years. So sometimes what appears to be something negative actually really does lead to something positive. Nothing negative is going on here. But if you're an early born Leo and you've been feeling that stress, it could be about courage. It could be about your heart and bringing your heart into the material world, because here is about expressing joy and fun and about concentrating on what you enjoy and allowing that to be the beacon that carries you forward. I kind of want to remind Leo that, the sun rules you and you are the leader of the Zodiac. And at the same time, you lead the Zodiac. Everything in your house is fun. The worst thing in the house of Leo is humans perceiving you as too boastful, as too much. And that's a human definition, not a source definition, not a God energy. So I really want to reframe this, because I think that as you start to say, what I want, I'm willing to birth it in the material world. And not only am I willing to birth it in the material world, I'm willing to be not only the performer, I'm willing to be the audience. And if I enjoy it, it will bring alignment. And I want to offer this too, because if you are a Leo trying to conceive children, or you're trying to start a family, this eclipse could very well bring that forth without realizing it. Scorpio rules sex. It doesn't just rule death and rebirth. It rules intimacy, and really like deep intimacy, like Kama Sutra intimacy. Because here, Seraphina is offering a happy change to your family, and there's the High Priestess, which is calling upon Leo's inner knowing. And I want to offer it this way because it is, to me, this inner knowing right now, and the happy family, it could be a lot of things. I never actually gave birth to children, but my home, it's important for my mind to be at peace, to have a happy family. But here, I think it's about birthing something literally in the material world. And now it's about staying the course, focusing in on the possibilities, not the practicality of it. Not like, oh my God, I'm 37 and the doctor says I only have one egg left. Don't listen to any of that. And not because it isn't true or false. It's just more about, it puts you in a fear-based energy. Because here, in order for you to be very fertile, okay, I'm going to be a little, I don't know if I'm politically correct, but her bosoms here make me feel like I got to come from my heart chakra. This is where a female creates sustenance for the baby. This is where the milk comes from. There's something happening here that you're bringing in, and it's new. And it needs to be tended to and loved on from the highest possible vibrations. Because as Leo asserts themselves towards not only what they love, but that love is available, and it is omnipresent, and it is abundant, and you continue to assert yourself that way, more and more is going to come into your material experience. And this is where you really get to shine and be the sun, and let us be the audience that says, I want to be that too. I want to follow that. Because Mystique is saying to keep charging ahead, expect miracles, and focus on the miracle. Because as you do, you not only get to experience joy for yourself, you get to experience it in a way that represents what other people can do when they align to the possibilities, not the practicality. Okay, very exciting. There's also a new moon coming up in your 10th house. So some of that may be a change of status, where someone goes from being a non-parent to being a parent, or being, from being single to being engaged or getting married. There's a lot more to that 10th house than just government and career. Okay. Let's look at our Virgos. I think May is going to bring a lot of things. There's between the eclipse, the last eclipse of the season, Pluto is moving retrograde. We have a grand fixed square this month. So I think, and that's involving the nodes. I'm just going to do a little plug for my monthlies. I went over all those, talked about the houses, because I think it's going to create tension, but the tension feels as if I'm ravenous for the new experience. The grand fixed square, I think the focal point is the North Node, because the North Node is about to be conjunct Jupiter. And that is going to just put a huge energy in there of wanting to expand, wanting to be seen for your own wants and desires, your new ideologies, your new philosophies, wanting to go into new territories and really bring them, dig deep into the earth. So as you focus on those with sort of this abandon for practicality, like rather than looking for the signpost that says, go here, okay, letting your instincts take you. All right, I'm gonna dart off before I start Virgo. The other day I was in such a mood of feeling kind of like just a weight, just like, why is everything so hard? And I could feel myself starting to go down this, oh, Teri's got to do it all on her own. Teri has no support, blah, blah, my big story, right? And then I caught myself, and I needed to go into town. So I decided I was going to let spirit guide me downtown. I was going to look for things beautiful all the way downtown. It's about a 15-20 minute walk. It wasn't very successful, to be honest. I looked, oh, I saw that flower. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, and I could feel myself pulling myself to try to find something beautiful. Then I got what I needed. And as I was standing at the light to cross the highway to walk back home, I saw dolphins in the ocean. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm meant to walk. I'm being inspired to walk along the ocean instead of the highway. So I walked along the ocean, and the whole 20-minute walk home, those dolphins were following a paddle boarder. And I thought to myself, I put an intention out to the universe to seek that what was beautiful. And at first, it wasn't easy to see it. It wasn't easy to find it. I could see it, but it was just going into my head. Then when I saw the dolphins, and they just meandered along with this guy. There were two paddleboarders, but they were hanging about by one. And usually when I see them, it's for a minute or two and they're gone. This was not, this continued. And I connected to the idea that I intended for spirit to lead me. I intended to see beauty, and spirit delivered that. And that started to change the rest of my focus throughout the week. And when I did my videos, I felt in a different frequency and a higher vibration, more joy, more excitement. And so to me, this is what I want to encourage each one of you, because we're walking through a lot of outside stimuli that will pull us into this heaviness. And as we connect with spirit and then allow for those inspirations and the subtlety of them, it always amazes me when I see these things, how many people I look around, they don't see it. Their focus is elsewhere. And to me, that's another sign from God and the angels, that sometimes there are things that are beautiful in front of us, but our focus doesn't allow us to see it. That's where I'm going. That's my story. Now I'm going to go on to Virgo. And our tarot card is, there really is a reason why these stories come out. They're not just me wanting to tell you all my stories. There's the Queen of Thought, Virgo, ruled by Mercury. Your ruling planet is now retrograde in Taurus, giving you an opportunity to really review. Are you able to pull your sight up? Are you willing to master your thoughts and become an expert of awareness? It's not the eradication or the releasing of negative thoughts. It's a simple point of information that allows me now to move a process over here. As I walked to town, I could have given up when I saw the ivy on the tree. Oh, that's beautiful. I could have thought this is stupid. I could have thought that. And then I felt like I was working. Finally, I felt the alignment. I felt the connection, because this is an opportunity to master your thoughts. And I want to say this too. The mastery is the ease and flow of the journey, not perfection in every thought. Because you would never know that you had a great thought unless you had a negative thought, or you would never feel the exhilaration of accomplishment if you never walked through something that made you nervous or fearful. So Virgo, our first angel is Celeste. The second is Patience. The third is Indriel. And the final is Isaiah. Hi, Emma, love. All right, here we go. Celeste is being joined by the Wealth card. Patience is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Indriel is being joined by the Baird. And Isaiah is being joined by Merlin. I hate when I say, but I do all the time. My Pluto transits have really made me an annoying human, in the sense of I'm constantly asking myself, what's my motivation for this? What's my motivation for that? What's the bottom line? And here we have Virgo with an opportunity to really look at your thoughts and to hold them in a way that they are like Excalibur, and you're using them with prowess and with intention, rather than just having them shoot at you. Because here is Celeste offering you a shift in the way you're thinking. And there's the Wealth card. Because the Wealth card really is that ease and that flow of, okay, if there's a challenging thought, then I have an opportunity to look for a more positive, a more supportive thought. And this is what I've been doing. When Lucky got out, of course I was scared. Of course he was running towards the highway. Of course he could have been hit by a car, but that didn't happen. I pulled out my superhero moves. I grabbed his little butt. I got us back in the house. And that evening we were protected. And that's what I'm going to focus in on. I mean, it's so easy to default the other way, because the Patience card is all about observation of self. It says on it, now is a time to learn, study, and gather information. This is information about the self, because the Lady of the Lake is asking you here, Excalibur, to really not to judge yourself. This is the little bit of the challenge with Virgo, is that there's a weird energy of wanting to seek perfection. And the perfection is in recognizing that you're fabulously flawed. And within that fabulousness, you get a journey of discovery that empowers you. And that's where the storm comes in, because there she is. Her mind is saying one thing, her emotions are saying another, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And here, Indriel is offering you a reconciliation of your own history as you start to tell another story. You start to recognize, sure, that was that story, but now there's this story. Because Isaiah is offering new beginnings and protection, being guided in the new beginning. And Merlin is balance, alchemy, and justice. And I think that this also represents justice. It's just and fair for you to live a happy, thriving life. It's just and it's fair for you to focus in on yourself. It's a slippery slope, the Virgo energy, because it's all, everything. You would go from the house of Leo, which is all about me and my expression and my creation, into Virgo, which is about nothing about me. It's about being enslaved to somebody else. It's about being enslaved to a potential health issue. And there gets to be balance here, because as the human recognizes that when I take care of me, I'm actually representing the possibilities for you, and I'm more excited to help you. I'm more excited to be of service to you when I'm actually filling my needs as well. Okay. So I think this is really good. And I want to offer this too, because for Virgo, the eclipse is in your third house, and the third house is naturally ruled by Gemini. And here we're seeing this idea, Gemini rules my thoughts, even what I hear, what and how I hear. Do I hear through the filter of my mind, looking for the obligations in my service to you, where I'm enslaved to your opinion of me and me having to continue to be that for you? There's something about owning yourself here. And in doing so, it's not about not wanting to be there for others, but at the same time, it's representing an energy that says it's okay for you to want your own happiness. It's okay for you to put yourself first, because I know how to do that in balance for myself. Okay, here we go. On to our Libras. Hey, Dan. Welcome to the room. It's good to see everybody in the room today. It is really cold and cloudy here in Southern Cal, my little part of the woods. All right, Libra. Okay, here we go. This is the Seven of Pentacles. This is definitely a card of assessment. This character has built quite a bit. You know, he's been working hard tending to his garden. He's apparently harvested one of these coins, but now he's deciding, should I let them grow more or should I take them down? Let's see. The eclipse for you guys is in for Libra, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums is in the second house, which is naturally ruled by Taurus. Here it's Scorpio, right? So I think this is, again, going to be an assessment of how I perceive the power over myself, how I perceive is my family history dictating my future. You know, I think it's kind of funny. My mom used to always say children, she would make it seem like children didn't retain anything. Children didn't remember anything. And if you think about it, children retain everything. It's the adult that blots them out. I have not noticed any earthquakes at all. And I don't watch the news much because it's poison for my brain. All right, Libra. Our first angel is Akasha. The second is Isabella. The third is Sonia. And the final is Bridget. Where's PNW? I'm trying to think where that would be. All right, Akasha's being joined by the mystery card. Isabella's being joined by the protection card. Sonia's being joined by the partnership card. And Bridget's being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Okay, so we're going to, Libra's going to, Pacific Northwest. Thank you very much. I'm a dummy. I'm a dumbass. Sorry. Okay. I want to offer this because, Libra is a very cooperative sign, and maybe this is offering you an opportunity to take a moment to assess a situation, to use this week as Pluto starts its retrograde. Pluto, that deep psychologist, asking us to go down, not to judge, but to really allow a rebirth, because the shadow side of Scorpio would be to be afraid of suffering some terrible death because I either said the wrong thing, or I'm doing the wrong thing, or I'm, purporting energies that other people would not be aligned to. Because where I'm going with this is I feel as if, Libra, this is an opportunity to kind of look at the audience for a minute. Look at who you're being affected by. Do you care a lot anymore? Okay, let me kind of be more cruel and succinct. There may be people in your life you just really don't care about their opinion anymore, but you know what? You're used to caring about their opinion, or you're used to them thinking you care about their opinion, and it may end up having this effect on you where you're starting to disconnect from that. That's kind of what I want to say. I think it's okay for my partnership signs to recognize when there are partners that are actually not in balance, or they're not serving your happiness, because Akasha is the teacher, and I think you're being taught about your choices right now. And this is encouraging you to take a moment to really think about what those choices are and if they're bringing bounty to you. And I say that because Isabella says the timing is right for you to really do this assessment. And then we see the protection card. Now, Venus is your ruling planet. Venus has been in Gemini, and she's going to move into Cancer. I think on the 7th. Let me look really quick. Yes, on the 7th. So next week. So as she gets to the end of Gemini, there could be for you all, Libra, an opportunity to really experience things that involve your network of friends, or your siblings, or your work dynamic. And I say that because, yes, the eclipse is in your second house, but I'm feeling this Geminian energy. I'm feeling this with Venus and Gemini. Maybe it's an opportunity to assess how I really value myself in relation to other situations. And now I get to sort of rewrite things because I've learned something. And now it's time for me to start to maybe put myself forward. I'm always thinking that when it comes to Libra, I'm an Aries rising with a Libra sun. And I have been encouraged by Spirit to think that two individuals, two me's come together to make a we. So rather than absorbing ourselves in a partnership, it's important for the health of the partnership to maintain your sense of self. So that could be very much what's going on here, because Spirit is asking you really to have a partnership with your inner being, I feel like this is not representing your team right now, but representing the part of yourself that lives not in the physical. I do not believe that the entirety of who we are is in one physical vessel. I feel like it's just a fragment of who we are, and the larger part of ourselves holds space for what we know, that holds space for us during those times of unsureness and darkness that we feel. Because I think that this is a very important moment for Libra to really dig deep into what is important to them and what they want. And there may be this bit of a fight between what you think you want and what your emotional body tells you want. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. So as a Libra sun, one of the things that I have realized about myself is that I do want to build my YouTube channel, but there was a part of me that was negating my value because of the numbers. If I don't have this number of subscribers, if I don't have this number of views, then I'm not important. And that was a defeating and deflating energy. So what I've done in my own truthful assessment is say, you know what? I started this work not worrying about the number of people I touched, and allowing Spirit to bring the people that would best be served by my gifts and my talents. And I started to realize that I was throwing myself off kilter. And I got to learn something about the choices that I was making right now, because I was starting to make this a real arduous job that I wanted to quit. And how could my dream be the job I want to quit? It can't be right. I must be out of alignment with the truth of who I am. So, Libra, it's time to just give yourself a little bit of a break and just maybe slow your roll a minute and allow that first layer of thought and then the epiphanies that are offered underneath that first layer. Okay, here we go. On to our Scorpios. This is going to be your lunar eclipse in your first house. And if you are a Scorpio between, I would say, 12 to 16 degrees, giving that a 2-degree orb, very powerful. And I want to offer it this way because I feel like this is not an ending, but rather an illumination, a real opportunity to take the energies of the previous eclipses that were on your axis back in 2022 to look at what the nodes have shown you as they've traversed your first house, that south node, asking you on some level to be egoless to how others perceive you and what is the truth within your own heart. The sign of Scorpio is like the great detective. He's Columbo. He's Freud. It's this energy. Oh, wow. Gita, that's really powerful. I know it's going to be on my Mercury. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm hoping I'm not going to lose my mind, but I do think there's the probability that with it on my Mercury, that allowing more of mediumship to come through. Because, again, we don't talk about it often, but Scorpio rules the occult. And the occult in previous generations felt a little bit dark and foreboding. But I think it's really a rounded word for alternative ways of viewing the universe and an opportunity to assess where structures that represent religion could inadvertently be overpowering us with rules and regulations that don't serve us or don't even actually serve the institution itself. Okay, so Scorpio, what is your card? Ooh, the Knight of Pentacles. This is cool. This is very steady. This is Taurus, the very Taurian energy. Taurus is your opposing house. And there can be a little bit of a feeling of immobility, but here, more often than not, we think of dependability. We think of reliability. So let's look and see what this means, because it may be for you to be steady in your endeavors, to be steady in your thoughts. And your intentions. We have Oceana, then we have Ariel, then we have Teresa, and we have Akasha. Oceana is being joined by the water fairy. Wow. Ariel is being joined by the swan. Teresa is being joined by the spider. And Akasha is being joined by the letting go card. Okay, for my beautiful, beautiful Scorpios, I want to offer this because, Scorpio is a fixed sign and it gets the rap for being a little bit stingy, a little bit, intense. Brooding is one that, people use that definition. And I want to offer it this way because I think this series of eclipses is been giving you a definition about what's super important to you. And I think what Spirit wants now is for you to be steady and to be steadfast, to have fortitude and strength as you continue to probe your own emotional background, your own emotional motivations. The water fairy is a very intuitive energy, and Oceana for me is really following a soul's calling. It's sort of swimming through the muck of the earthly experience to trust something that can't be seen with the naked eye. And I feel like, I'm a big fan of Pluto. I I think Pluto is really my friend. And while it isn't always easy, as Pluto digs deeper and deeper into the stories I tell myself that disempower me, there's a very strong feeling of comfort when I get to that level of, because I don't feel like Pluto ever judges. I feel like Pluto is actually very neutral. And that's why it can rule death and rebirth, because it doesn't really see death as death, and rebirth isn't really a rebirth but a continuation. Because for my Scorpios, I think there's something about bringing your intuitive body, bringing the depths of your psychological makeup into the 3D world. Here's Ariel talking about new intuitive experiences, psychic experience, and experiences with spirit, and there's that transformation. So I think that this is important because I think you have a lot to offer, and I think it's about bringing this into the practical world and potential to even make money, because Teresa is the angel of worrying about other people. Okay. And there's the spider, which tells me there's the potential that there's the network. I see the network, and I feel like the angels are asking you to be brave in demonstrating in the material world your own transformation. And I don't think this is about going to people and going, look at me, I've transformed. It's more about looking at yourself and saying, this is the plumber story all over again for me. I have my Mercury in Scorpio. I can be very, very assertive in my way of communicating. I'm not a fighter with my fists, but boy, my mouth. And so, as I have been aware of how I use that weapon or that tool, I have become very proud of myself in how I have influenced a situation that could have gone a real different way, because that's what I think is going on for my Scorpios. I think that you are learning, and this is the teacher energy, but I think Akasha is teaching you not to let it go, but the power of some distance, so that you can very much choose how you will address a situation, which then empowers you, and without the other party even being aware that you have taken the reins, the horse by the reins, the bull by the reins, by the horns. I want to say sometimes it's easier to take things with a grain of salt. And then sometimes it feels like the grain of salt starts to get another grain of salt and another grain of salt, and things start to stack up. So, and I feel like we're in a place where the outside world is stacking things up to exasperate the situations. That's why I feel like as we go and we're willing to individualize ourselves, willing to look deeper and deeper, because sometimes when people tell you, or we go into a situation, even sometimes when people come to see me, there can be the hope that I will fix things for them. And what I know as an intuitive is I can't fix anything for you, but I can present opportunities and perceptions and perspectives that will help open your eyes to seeing a new way of being. And as you root that into the material world, you can become much more powerful influencer in your own life. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think there's going to be an illumination about how you're showing up that doesn't involve judgment, criticism, or throwing yourself under the bus, but instead capitalizing on energies that may have in the past felt like they were a little too much for others, but they're not anymore, because you're learning how to express them without such a blunt way of being. That's the way I want to put it. Okay. All right, here we go on to our Sagittarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And again, I did within the March, this is how far back I am. Within the May videos, I covered the new moon. I covered the eclipses. I tried to do it all in one video for you so you'd be able to find them and just refer to that. Okay, Sagittarius. Your tarot card, fun. The Queen of Pentacles. Now, this is really fun because she's actually looking down at all that she has created, and she feels a sense of ease and comfort. We see the bunny rabbit in the forefront, meaning feeling like she's prolific. We see a lot of goat energy here. So that shows us she's displayed a sense of tenacity as she planted, and then she tended to her harvest before it was ready to be plucked and enjoyed. Let's see where we're going with our Sagittarians. Because oftentimes when I see the queens, I think it's about being a master of receptivity, of knowing that things will come to me easily as I align to those things. And then I walk on inspiration, meaning I know I'm co-creating. So I'm not waiting for some sort of fairy wand on top of my head to make things magically wonderful for me, but rather being aware of the constant conversation between me and source, me and the universe. And as I align to the things that I know will bring me a sense of pride for what I've created. That was one of the things that this morning in my meditation, I was very inspired to take an inventory and to be proud of the things I've created. I don't do that very often. I just skip right over them and then I go on to the next challenging situation. All right, Sagittarius. Our first angel is Crystal. Have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. The second is Layla, setting intentions, strong intentions to the universe. Isabella saying, yes, the timing is right for this new venture. And Sonia is telling you to stop. I'm sorry, Teresa's telling you to stop worrying. Worry is literally a form of prayer that blocks your manifestation. Okay. Crystal and the love card are being joined together. Layla and the horse, which is very Sagittarian. Isabella and the movement card. Teresa and the wealth card. Okay. For my Sagittariuses, you kind of rule faith, right? You rule journeying to somewhere that you have never been before. And that in and of itself is a faith within yourself that you will thrive or you will have an opportunity to experience something that will fill your heart. Because now is a time, I think, to start to play to the Queen of Pentacles. What is it you want to create? And a willingness and an awareness that as you start to focus on that the resources that you need will come to you without much effort. Because Crystal will offer, as you focus on what you love, focus on the excitement of it. And here, this almost feels as if I'm doubling down on that, because in the opportunity or the obstacle is Layla saying to set intentions with spirit. And then there's the horse. And this very much feels like Sagittarius moving in a new direction. And that move is focusing in on what you want, not the obstacles to getting there. Because as you do that, you will start to see spirit move things around for you. People will call, people will book your services, somebody will find your goods and your products and they will inquire, because there's the movement card. And it comes as a direct result of your focus on what you want versus the road to get there, the hill to get there. In the month of April, I felt like I lost a lot of subscribers. I was like, I didn't produce the way I wanted to. That played to the idea that if I don't produce, people won't respond to my channel. I'll be useless, blah, blah, blah. And that whole story, as I reframed that in my mind, and then when I did my new videos, I got a whole bunch of new subscribers. So I really want you to pay attention to your vibration, because worry is going to block your wealth. So Sagittarius, this ability to have faith in yourself, this ability to see the movement comes through your intention and your connection to spirit, and then being very willing to be scorpionic in that connection. Because if in that connection, you're inadvertently being like, I want to create this so I'm not poor when I'm this age, or I want this so this bad thing doesn't happen. That's not true alignment or true faith. So I feel like it's about being even more aware of why you are creating. Does it feel good? Does it feel valuable? Do you feel valuable within the situation? And I think as you focus on that, you'll start to see things coming into the 3D world very quickly. I love crafting. I haven't let myself craft since I started building my own YouTube channel. I have all these diamond arts that I haven't even opened or played with in forever. I could use some playtime. Okay, here we go, Capricorn. Oh, Capricorn, I love this. This just works for me. There is the Six of Cups. I love this energy. It's very, very hopeful and faithful. It's got all this youth. These characters have not been jaded by the love experience yet. And it's the only card in the whole tarot deck where all the cups are filled with blossoms, with blooms, blooming in full. So I want to offer this to my Capricorns as representing the transformation you've gone through as you have walked Pluto's transit. So meaning you've had Pluto transiting your first house forever and a day. And now this is where the rebirth comes in, where the understanding that while I enjoy being a leader and tending to the things that I feel responsible for, how about now my leadership shows that when I tend to the things that I find joyous and I allow them to bloom, it creates a sense of wealth and harmony that is beyond the material, that also satisfies the emotional and those around me. When somebody is taking care of us, I come from a generation where you wanted your husband to be able to provide for you, to provide a home, to provide food. There's a weird feeling of there's a weird balance, out of balance feeling for that. And I say that only because sometimes Capricorn can default to what they're providing in the material world and then ignore the emotional world. And I think that the Pluto transit has made you more aware of the emotional world, and not only of those around you, but of your own emotional well-being. And as you've been honoring that emotional well-being, you're feeding and fueling those around you in a much more powerful way. So our first angel is Rosetta, parenting and teaching. Crystal, have faith and hope. Bethany, self-care. And Indriel, the light worker. This is the other thing. When we've seen someone in energy that we find, challenging, and then they shift, it really is a powerful experience for others. It opens things up. It gives us this opportunity to see that everything isn't set in stone. And as we, when you see someone like Capricorn who's used to purporting a dutiful energy, that's used to purporting obligatory dynamics, and then we start to shift that a little bit, it becomes a hugely powerful energy for those around you. So Rosetta's being joined by the Risk card. Crystal's being joined by the Hawk. Bethany's being joined by the Baird, and Indriel's being joined by the King. I really am. Oh, I just got chills everywhere. I really think that good things are happening for Capricorn, because to me now, this is not about parenting other children. This is about your inner child and the risk that you have taken to nurture your inner child, to say, I'm going to represent something that offers everybody a win-win. This very much feels as if everybody wins here. Everybody who comes to this party wins. So this to me is you risking betting on the evolved version of yourself, because Crystal is saying have faith and hope. There's so much more on the horizon. And now you've been able to fly up above certain situations. You've been able to see the story with which you come from and whatever energies held you dutiful to that. And you're seeing the wisdom of self-care, that actually is teaching a much more high vibrational, much more balanced energy, because this is where your service comes in. This is where your true leadership as a light worker comes in, when you see that this is just and fair and balanced. And it brings a sense of rootedness to an energy that in previous times was considered frivolous. Less than 3 years ago, okay? Well, let's say 4 years ago now, in 2019, in the United States, if you called in sick, there was a high probability that your boss would say, I don't care if you're sick, get in the office, I need you. Now, since the COVID, there's like this, you're sick, stay home. Nobody could have predicted that change. Nobody could have predicted the attitudinal change towards germs, and that now you'd be considered a criminal if you showed up at work with a cold or sniffles. So I think that this is a metaphor for my Capricorns. So as you have shifted into this more light energy, this more joyous energy, and a willingness to at least move that direction, you're bringing forth experiences that you can't even imagine just yet. And you're getting a pretty fun ride as you fly the airways of the hawk, actually starting to look for the things that are working for you, because this is now an opportunity to put your story where it belongs. And this, yes, defying gravity. I love it, Stephen. And this is self-care, is inviting everybody else to feel the self-care as well. And this feels just and fair, and it feels like it's the true leadership that Saturn is now asking us to follow. Saturn is evolving, everybody, whether we know it or not. And that initial repression that we feel is probably more aligned to the idea of we need to stop and really take a look at a situation instead of just purporting energies that are a default energy. And that's why Pluto and Saturn are so powerful right now, because Pluto's bringing up the default and asking it to be renovated. Okay. On to our Aquariuses, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. See, our tarot card is, the King of Swords. A little bit of a theme going on here. We're seeing a lot of mastering our own energies. This is a very Libran energy again. This guy's looking directly into the camera. And it's interesting to me because his legs feel a little bit off balance, and yet he's able to hold balance. So I'm wondering where we're going with this, because he may not be off balance, but when I think about it, the sword is over the knee that's down. And I wonder if there isn't a sort of a surrendering to a calming energy with what I think. When we really believe something, sometimes we don't feel like we have to prove anything to anybody else. And that's the energy I'm getting off this. So Aquarius, there could be an energy where your thoughts are, I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I'm just going to own how I feel. Let's see what we're going on here. Let's see. All right, there's Grace and Antoinette, who just flew out of the deck. All right. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by Daniel, then Sonia, and then Rosetta. We have the Wasp joining Grace and Antoinette. We have Daniel joining the dog. Sonia is being joined by the protection card, and Rosetta is being joined by the raven. Okay. I want to offer this to my Aquariuses because, Aquarius is really, of the whole zodiac, Aquarius is always thinking on how to make the planet better. What can I invent to make the planet better? What can I innovate? What technologies can I implement? How can I go out there and make this better? And there's a flip to that a little bit, because sometimes the herd doesn't like the innovation so quickly. I remember when they first started having computers at the office, I had a lot of worry about learning a computer. I have Mercury in Scorpio, for all I know, South Node was going over that at the time, but I just wasn't sure I wouldn't blow something up. The reason I say that is because I think with Pluto starting to enter Aquarius, and Pluto's about to go retrograde at that 0 degree, so our early Aquariuses could really be feeling the north winds blowing, could be feeling things coming up from underneath that are demanding attention. And the mind is wanting to really go deep and excavate with expertise, not with criticism, not with judgment, again, as a piece of information. Because Grace and Antoinette is here, and there's the Wasp. And I feel as if for my Aquariuses, if for some reason you're feeling some energies, there could be with a conjunction, okay? If this is your Aquarius sun, we won't even, we can talk about the opposition, which could be someone outside of yourself. But I want to offer it this way, because this is a conversation not to get stingy. If it's about you, if for some reason you're 50 years old and you're like, why didn't I embark on something new when I was younger? You weren't ready. The technologies weren't ready. Something wasn't going on. So here, this is a real opportunity to display compassion for any judgment that you may be imposing upon yourself, because this could infer judgment, very much so. Now we have Daniel, the angel of marriage, and we have the loyalty, the dog, unconditional love, sincerity. As I aged, I realized it wasn't until my 50s that the technology was available for me to be who I wanted to be. And I could go back into my history and I could villainize it, or I could turn it into the very thing that makes me understand that I was garnishing much more than a platform all those years. All that history was helping me to be who I am. And now my job is to trust myself, because I think you're going into a new dynamic, a new, not just a frequency, because Pluto's entering your first house, but there are things that are going on where as we enter this Aquarian energy, humanity will benefit not just from the things that we invent, but the way that we view our lives, the way that we think. And I think this protection card and Sonia here is telling me that even if you're experiencing really big challenges right now, there is going to be bounty coming for you. There is going to be something that you're going to garnish that will make everything feel just and fair, because I think your experiences are going to teach people, but I don't know if you went and spoke at them, if they would learn as quickly or as deeply as they will, as they are not talked to, but rather they experience something from you. Because this is Rosetta, which is, I think, your inner child. And there is the Raven, which is literally, to me, magic, coincidence, and synchronistic events. And I feel like part of this journey you've been going through is also a timing issue, meaning, Aquarius, you may not have been ready to take on the next layer of abundance. You may have not been emotionally ready. There may be things that have been in play that if you had received what you wanted before now, you would have inadvertently not experienced it at its height. That's the way I want to put it. When I look at this, there's something about Aquarius kind of realizing that any anxiety you felt could be a potential call to look at something a little deeper. Is it really serving you? I feel as if there's this energy right now where it's not about judgment or even taking action, as much as it's allowing for an assessment of things and then the rebirth of that 0 degree is the infusion of an energy. It's a forceful of, it's like a baby being born on some level. So we're being born into, or Aquarius is being born into energies that transform the challenges into the opportunities. That's the way I want to look at it. And I think that it's time for you to start to step into that, because whatever the old story is, those bones have been picked clean and it's time to fly off of it. And I do think that on some level, your experiences will help teach others, but not because you're talking to them, but rather they're experiencing you walk through what would appear to be stingy, but instead of being stingy, you found a new vibration. This is very much the plumber for me, because normally that guy, I swear, literally, at one point I called him after he didn't return my call for like the 5th time, and I heard him gasp. Like, I'm like, hey, it's Teri. And he goes, oh! And then he's like, I got to call you back. And that normally would have triggered me into warfare. Like, what the hell is your problem, dude? But I didn't go there. And that's where I felt my own evolution. And that's why I'm telling you that, Aquarius. All right, Pisces. Your tarot card is the 2 of Pentacles. First thing I see is flexibility. Second thing I feel is more what goes around comes around, what goes around comes around. And this is also a card of travel, which is interesting. I agree, 145 Club. I think it's going to be a huge claiming of yourself, and like in a way that feels very celebratory to me. But anyway, all right. So Pisces, the 2 of Pentacles. Now this is the thing about this. When I look at this, if any sign is flexible, if any sign is mutable, if any sign is willing to be like, oh no, what do you want? How do I make you happy? It's Pisces. So let's see where we're going with this, because the flexibility may be being flexible about how other people perceive your choices. You've got Saturn in that first house asking you really to look at what's sustainable. Where do you want to grow? Where do you want to feel leadership and bounty? It's funny when I was reframing my saving lucky, out the door, I kept calling them my superhero moves versus, I thought it looked better to frame it that way. It felt more exciting than scary. All right, Pisces, let's see what that Two of Pentacles represents. Azure, your desired outcome will happen in the near future. There's the romance card, Chantal. There is Serafina. And there is Ray. Oh, I'm hearing something outside. The eclipse is going to be in your 9th house. And right now we have Venus in your 5th house. Ooh. Let's see what's going on here. Azure is being joined by the transformational death card. Chantal is being joined by the stag. Serafina is being joined by the wealth card. And Ray is being joined by the partnership card. All right. Pisces, God bless you. I want to offer this. If for some reason you're in challenge in a relationship or you've been going back and forth in a situation, I feel as if this is a time to be flexible with how you perceive it. This is a time not to actually default to one decision or another, because Azure says your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. This is doubled down by the transformational death card. Something will have a rebirth. We know we have a lunar eclipse this week. We know that we are revisiting themes that we experienced during the eclipse season in 2022 between Taurus and Scorpio. So there is a very strong possibility that the 9th house themes that Pisces is going through, there's a revisit. And this is an opportunity to look at them differently, to step into leadership when it comes to how you want to be loved, to actually, and this is what I want to offer. This is not an energy that's being forceful and saying, look, if you love me, you would know this about me. Or if you loved me, you wouldn't do that to me. This is more an energy that's standing in leadership, that you do whatever you are going to do, and I'm going to assess whether or not I feel loved. And if I do so, I'll be happy to move forward. But if I don't, I'm going to relax, and I'm going to give the universe an opportunity to actually show me a new experience. Serafina's offers happiness, and there's the harmonious wealth card. And I want to offer it this way because I think that this is a good opportunity for Pisces to look at relationships in general with the people you love, and to start to give life to the idea that these are even exchanges of energy, and then to talk about that with spirit repeatedly. I feel like that this is a real opportunity to this is the partnership card, and this is Ray. And this is a meditative energy that is focused on the transformation, not the problem. So now, Pisces, we've got Saturn in your 1st house. Saturn is about to go retrograde next month. And on the exact same day, is it next month? I think it's actually in July. And I'm going to do a video because Chiron is going to go retrograde on the same day. Now, while they're not in a direct conversation, they will be in a conversation. Wounds will be stoked, and there's an opportunity to turn that into a gift. So now let's look at Pisces. Pisces, this Saturn in your 1st house is about really looking at what is sustainable for you. How do I allow myself to expand within my world and still feel connected to others? And right now, there's no definitive answer to that. And there's a requirement to be flexible and to allow yourself to travel into possibilities that you may not have considered. Oftentimes, people will there's certain things and certain situations I experience, and no matter how evolved I get, I still go back to that. They don't like me. They're going to talk trash about me. They're going to bring up all the bad stuff about me. And in doing that, it's affected my behavior in new situations, because I'm like, well, if they never experience that from me, they can't label me that. There's something about the Pisces energy right now that makes me feel as if there is a label of some kind, if there is something that you've been experiencing that doesn't feel like it's actually supporting a bigger picture of what you want, then this is an opportunity to be flexible as you test putting yourself a priority and see if, it's almost like being willing on some level. If you want to experience the higher vibrations of love, then you have to be willing to experience them through the self first. And that's what Saturn's talking about in your first house, about, looking at where the fears are stoked. And if those fears, if the real bottom line of those fears is, if I don't do what you want and I'm not always focused on you, will you still love me? That's a real opportunity to kind of sit back and be a little bit more flexible. Okay. Because I think what Spirit's wanting to do is to bring in a real sustainable and a real expansive energy where you're feeling more valued and loved in the 3D world. That's where I'm going with that. Okay. Okay, here we go. On to our final sign, our Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I don't know what y'all are talking about, but all of a sudden I just got this image of a pair of tights that I had, leggings, and you wash them and you think they're black and that they're great. And then all of a sudden you're folding them and you hold them up to the light and you realize they're paper thin and you've been showing your butt all over the world every time you went out in them. I don't know anybody who's done that. All right, Aries, the Page of Cups. This is a wonderful, wonderful energy. This is the energy, this is very Piscean, as we see our little fish. And I want to offer this too, because there's a very joyous energy coming here. So as you're enjoying the last few weeks of Jupiter in your first house, let's see. Dan, you're so funny. I can't even tell you how many times I've done that. And the older I get, the less I'm like buying new clothes. I need to get some new clothes. I'm wearing the same shirts all the time. And I swear, ever since COVID, I've become like the queen of the sweatpants. Leggings even become too hard to put on. I'm so lazy. All right. Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Rosetta is coming up. A lot of playing at the inner child today. Vanessa, faith or fear. Astera, reaching for the stars, and Archangel Michael, all about courage and protection. Rosetta's being joined by the frog. Vanessa's being joined by the wind fairy. Astera's being joined by the bird. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the cat. All righty. Your ruling planet Aries is ruling these eclipses. It ruled the Aries eclipse on April 19th, and it's ruling this eclipse on the 5th. And I really think that now, as I look at this spread, this is Spirit saying that to adopt this energy, a youthful, almost innocent, almost hopeful and faithful, and offering your cup of love. Mars has been transiting through Cancer. That can create a little bit of discord in the home. It can also make you very wanting to defend your home, feeling a need to defend your home. But I want to offer it this way, because those that are on this watch on this channel and endeavor these kind of videos are really looking for an awakening within themselves, looking to be more powerful in their own lives. And I feel right now that your planet Mars has been going through lessons as it went through Gemini, and now it's going through Cancer, and it's really kind of learning how to take all the information that it garnished in the mind and now implement it in the heart. And when Mars moves into Leo, it's going to start that grand fixed cross as Mars starts to oppose Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And when I say this, I feel like this opposition is still kind of cooperative, because Pluto and Mars are cooperative by nature. But here, Pluto's willing to dig deep and take time to dig deep. Pluto's not in any big hurry. Now, Mars is like, well, let's dig deep and move on. And Pluto's like, excuse me, that's not really digging deep. That's what we're talking about here. Looking at this, if you're hanging on to stuff from yesteryear, it's time to allow that to be incorporated into a tool that now alerts you to an opportunity to make a higher vibrational choice. I think that the frog represents good luck. I also think it represents jumping to a new lily pad. And if we are, and this is honestly really Aries looking at how much are you coming from love versus frustration. And I say that because Vanessa talks about faith over fear, and here is that lesson you've been learning about how you think. And while I know that Mars is brave and Mars is courageous, Mars, when we get into triage situations where Mars is acting on instinct, it can default to the I got this, get out of my way energy. And that doesn't always serve the bigger picture, because I think Spirit is asking my Aries to continue to reach to tell a new story, the evolved version of yourself that takes any of the old energies and it builds on them. They become tools. It's not about releasing them, because I think this is not about independence or healthy boundaries, but actually giving yourself a new life. I think it's time to have the courage to start to think of yourself as an evolved being. And one of the things I've, as an Aries rising, I keep feeling like if I don't build my channel to the heights of some of these other astrology channels, that I'm not valuable. And that is exactly what stopped me from all of it. And I feel as if as I become more aware, why do I want to build it so big? Am I building it because I want to help people, or am I building it because I want to say, look at me, I'm important? And that's the hard stuff I get to look at about myself, because I may be operating on the idea that I was so unimportant as a child that I am not over it yet. And I keep trying to prove to everybody how smart I am. But you know what? If I keep trying to tell that story, I'm going to find myself in a big loop. So I'm really now willing to ask Spirit to give me the courage to act independently and to give new life to my experience here. That was then, and this is now. And I've been very much more willing to recognize if I'm coming from offering people a warm and fuzzy feeling versus just the more challenging vibrations of the Mars energy. Because I really think that the idea of the 7 full moons at the 16th degree, that was huge to me. And then I add 7 months of Mars in Gemini, reflecting more and more on how I interact with other people. And then I go back to the idea that the eclipses and the nodes all being on the same axis of self-worth, and giving up my power to other people for material safety and comfort. So I think this is a powerful week for you. I think it's pardon me, really powerful to use Jupiter's energy to realign your beliefs, to give yourself permission to say that whatever was challenging or distasteful was the platform for what is easy and for what feels good. And if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't be able to identify this here. And in doing so, I'm going to take all the judgment off the table and start feeling like things are working for me instead of against me. Okay, that's super powerful. And Aries, that eclipse is in your house of transformation. I didn't mention that. It's in your 8th house. It's going to transform the deepest of your beliefs in yourself, and I think in a very positive way. All right. Well, this is awesome. Hey, Small, did you play our Highway to Hell? Highway to Hell. Okay, never mind. I'm not singing anymore. All right, guys. It's going to be a big week. Be gentle with yourself. You'll start feeling the pull of this moon soon enough. And as you do, remember, it's all working for you. I think it's the 17th, actually. Maybe it depends where you are in the world. I have it as the 17th. Jupiter entering Taurus, and then 2 days later we have a new moon. So it's a big month. Check out the monthlies. I went over all of this, and each one of you have your own video, so check that out. And I will do chapters after Small gets the timestamps up. And I have just one client that I'm going to be seeing a little later today. So I'll get those up ASAP. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for your support and your continued participation in the uplifting of this planet and of stretching for higher vibrational views of all of our divinely disruptive energy. So thanks, everybody. We'll be back next Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, where we will have experienced our eclipse, and we'll see what we garnish from that. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Stephen. Thank you, Small Wildflowers, for always being here and being such a huge part of this community, such a lifeline to our viewers. I appreciate you. Thank you, Emma Love. All right, everybody. Bye, Dr. Linda. I'll see you all next week. Have a wonderful week. Peace out.